It's Thursday morning. It's a great Thursday morning because I just got an alert on my phone that says the pizza I ordered is here. Now, this is not a Domino's pizza or a Pizza Hut delivery or something that doesn't really warrant this level of excitement. What's coming? What's downstairs right now? All right, I'm just gonna show you. Straight from Chicago, taste of Chicago, Illuminati pizza. I'm so happy. Oh, I had so much I want to tell you and want to be closer to you and share so many intimate moments, and let's get started by disinfecting you. So I got a pepperoni and I got a sausage. Okay, a preheat oven, lift pizza out, cook for 45 minutes. So long. It's much smaller than I thought it was. Oh, yes. Ooh. I might have slightly over toasted the pizza. Ow, got a lot of char on it. Not really that deep of a deep dish. This is my bad. I put it in for 40 minutes, as the instruction says. But then I cut this open, I didn't feel like it was really done. Like some of the dough, it wasn't really cooked through. So I put this back into the oven for like another 15 minutes. And now I think I overdid it. I still got that flaky, buttery crust that Illuminati's known for. But the pizza did definitely dry out a lot more than it should have. You know, the first time I went to Illuminati's, my friends were like, we're going to Illuminati's. And I'm like, we're going to go eat with the Illuminati people? And I don't know if this is because I overcooked it a bit or the shipping, but the deep dish pizza ain't so deep. I mean, you got the layer of pepperoni, and of course the cheese. To me, it will never be as good as New York pizza because this thing will sit in your stomach like a rock for at least a week before it comes out. What I want to talk about today, that was a good bite. Just like Darth Vader, there's still some good within this pizza. I do want to say though, and I think this is because of this pizza being shipped halfway across the country. Like even when I took it out the first time, the cheese wasn't all that stringy and it wasn't all that gooey. Before people start jumping down my throat about Illuminati not being the greatest, you can't badmouth Illuminatis. Bad things may happen. I just want to say this is the only Chicago deep dish that delivers across the country, so this was my only option. I know there's a lot of better deep dish pizzas out there. Still, pretty good for me. Oh my God, pepperoni is way better. I mean, it's a little less meaty, but it's just way cheesier. A lot of people have been messaging me. A lot of people have been feeling really depressed. This has been going on for years. Many people always message me. Sometimes they're Asian or not, or we're different ethnicity. And a lot of times they'll message me because I used to do a lot of these cultural videos and talking about cultural differences and whatnot. And they would message me and say, like, I really don't feel like I belong. Even right now, a lot of you guys watching this might not feel like you belong, or you feel isolated or lonely, or that nobody gets you. So I wanted to talk about this. And there's a couple reasons I wanted to address this. One is because it is Asian Heritage Month, so I feel like this is a good opportunity to talk about it. And also, it might surprise a lot of you that I really didn't feel like I belonged anywhere for over half of my life. So let me explain. So, born in China, obviously, the first place my family moved to when we came to the States was Knoxville, Tennessee. Check out the towns I lived in. We moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, where we stayed in a house called, and I kid you this not, it was called China House. Back then, that's everyone called it, like the white landlords, everybody called it China House because only Chinese people lived there. And I lived there with my parents in a studio apartment. Like, it was so small. Once when my dad took a photo, there was two beds, right? One on each side of the room, one for me, one for my parents. When he took a photo of me across the room, you could see his foot. All right, this room was so tiny, and we lived there for a number of years because the rent was like $200 a month, $100 a month, something like that. My parents came here My mom worked in a sewing factory. My dad, I think, was on a student visa, so he was also a waiter. So really humble beginnings. I really didn't care because I was a kid. I didn't know anything. So the school I went to, mostly white kids. I went through the typical stuff of, I had some crazy faux pas, right? Like my first day of school, this is really freaking embarrassing now I think about it. So in China, we used to wear pants, okay? We didn't have zippers. We used to wear these pants in China. Like our parents would just slit a opening in the area down there so you have easier access to go to the bathroom. We didn't have the zipper, like it's insane that, so my first day of school, I wore pants that didn't have a zipper, but it had an access. So I was walking around school and I went to Sequoia Elementary School in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was walking around school. Everyone kept looking at me. I'm like, why are everyone looking at me? I mean, I know I'm Asian. I'm not a lot of Asian people here, but still, why is everyone looking at me? The second thing I did wrong was I didn't have a pencil sharpener. I had a knife, and we used to use like what we call pencil knives back in China. So I brought a freaking knife to my elementary school. I think nowadays I'd be arrested. The police would be called, but back then they were just like, you can't have a knife. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to sharpen my pencil? Huh? My biggest culture shock was going to breakfast. So I show up for my first day in school. They're like, go eat some breakfast. So I went to go get breakfast. And the breakfast they served me was Cheerios with cold milk. You know how many times a Chinese kid back during when I was growing up had cold milk? The answer, of course, is none. Never had it. We weren't even allowed to drink cold milk in China. We had to like warm it up and put sugar in it. And so my teacher was like, here, dump the milk on my Cheerios. By the way, Cheerios as a kid is like, what is this bland crap? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this bland bunch of life preserver looking thing? But we did grow up to fear our teachers in China. So when our teacher said, eat that, I ate it. So ate that, upset stomach for the whole day. Get called out for the window to Little Mike. My pencil sharpening knife was taken from me. Not the best first day. And then came the ultimate recommendation that haunted me for most of my teens into my 20s. My parents came to the school because they were like thinking, okay, maybe I need an English name. At the time, my legal first name was Xing. That's my middle name now, legally. But in Chinese, my name is Chen Xing. So then my parents came to the school and they were asking my second grade teacher, Miss Lei. So they asked her, they said, hey, Miss Lei, do you think Xing needs a English name because the Xing is kind of like no one can pronounce it? And then she uttered those fateful words, nah, it's fine. No, it was not. Because obviously nobody could pronounce my name. Xing, everyone was like, Zing. I'll be in roll call. It'd be like Chase Anderson, David Bowman. And then I see the look of confusion settle over my teacher's face as they, Zing Chen. And then like, even, it is, what boggles my mind is that I knew it was coming, so I'm expecting. I'm trying to soften the blow. I'm trying to lessen the damage. So when they're going with the zing, I'm already raising my hand. I'm like, but then they feel the need to keep trying, right? So they're like, zing, Xing Chen. And if you pronounce it in Chinese, it's really simple. It's like Xing. It's like X is like SH, right? Xing. So then I'll be like, it's Xing. Zing? No, Xing. Zing? Yeah, Zing. Yes. I'm Zing Chen. And luckily for me, I feel like the kids at Sequoia, like no one really picked on me. I think kids, when you're that young, right? Like nobody sees color. Like the only color kids see are from crayons. Like they don't see that you're unlike them. You're just a kid. So I had good friends. So I went through 2 years in Knoxville. Then we moved to Fairmont, Minnesota. Population 3,000. That was a town where literally everywhere I walk, I mean, this will happen like once a week. Some random kid will ride up to me on a bike and be like, hey kid, you wanna fight? Like, that's how kids did it back then. Like, that's like the throwdown. Hey kid, you wanna fight? Then we moved to Austin, Minnesota, better known as the spam capital of the world. The good kind of spam, okay? The edible, the delicious kind of spam. I think when I got to Austin, I think this was when I was like 11 years old, I truly started to realize that I wasn't like other kids. Like I was also in that little kid bubble where you're kind of like, oh yeah, we're all just kids. We're all just having fun. Like whatever, let's play ball, let's play dodgeball, elimination, whatever. When I got to 5th grade, that was when I realized, I'm like, I'm the only Asian kid. And all my other friends, they had Nintendos and they had sleepovers and they got to eat pizza. Whereas I got to do none of that stuff because like if you mention sleepover to an Asian mom or dad, they'd be like, why you want to sleep there when we have good bed? It was like the beginning of my life when I realized that I wasn't like the other kids. And I remember there was a day I came back home from school and I tried to bleach my hair blonde. I mean, I tried to do this twice in my life. Once was then and the other time when Dragon Ball came out. But this was the time where I'm like, I don't want to be different. I want to be one of them. I want to be white. I don't feel Asian. I don't feel Chinese. I'm essentially white and I want to be white. I don't know anything about being Asian, which was crazy because I just came to the States at that point like 3-4 years ago. But that was what's going through my head. So I tried to bleach I was testing it out on my arm hair, which I had none of to this day. Oh, maybe that's what caused it. And after a year, we moved again, this time to Fort Dodge, Iowa. Population, I think, what is it, like 20,000, 30,000, something like that. In Fort Dodge, Iowa was when I started to realize, oh, girls exists. Okay, so obviously had crushes, didn't work out, really embarrassing moments. Wrote a horrible poem, all this stuff. But that was also the first time in my life I heard the phrase, you should date other people who are like you. Because at this point, like I'm starting to grow up. I'm entering that age where kids start being mean, you know? So the Ching Chong Ling Longs, and then like, unfortunately, Dr. Mario came out with that song, Bing Bing Walla Blah Bing Bing or something, and somehow my name was able to be slotted into that. And also I was unfortunate because that's when the road signs, the crossing road signs start coming out, okay? All right? So it was no longer Zing or Xing, it was crossing Chen. Like when I moved to Fort Dodge, there was like maybe 3 other Asian kids in the whole school. And one day when I was being made fun of, like, you know, doing the eye thing, like this will happen like on a daily basis. And I think that year was when I got into fighting because I had to stand up for myself. And one day there's this kid, his name was Kevin. I remember his name. His name was Kevin, he wore glasses. So when all the other kids were making fun of me, like doing the eye thing, whatever, he joined in and he was Asian. Dude, to this day, I'm still thinking back, I'm just like, dude, Kevin, how are you? Dude, my eyes are bigger than yours. And it boggled my mind. I'm like, why, how is another Asian person making fun of another Asian person for being Asian when they themselves are Asian? And I didn't really connect all the dots. I didn't really connect any of this stuff until like I did the video where I was about to be sent to China. I told you guys I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. That whole thing about the ninja thing, you think I was kidding. I was not kidding about that, okay? I did not want to go back, and I realized why I didn't want to go back. I was ashamed of being Chinese because nobody else was Chinese. They were able to date whoever they want to date. They could walk around without being picked on. They had a sense that they belonged. It kind of really hit me like, I looked down on Chinese people because looking inside, I felt that I'm not Chinese, I'm American. But then at the same time, like other people didn't see me as that. They saw me as Chinese. Maybe some saw me as Chinese American, but a lot more people saw me as a Chinese person. So where exactly did I belong? And that question nagged at me for so many years after that. So obviously I went to China and it was by far, I feel like one of the smartest decisions my parents ever decided for me. I mean, it was purely because I was being really a bad kid, but at the same time, like I'm glad they did it. I learned so much when I was in China. And I feel like a lot of other people out there who might have been in that same situation or are still, where you're watching and you are in the situation right now. Because this doesn't just pertain to being Asian. A lot of people might be home surrounded by people, go out surrounded by people, still feel like they don't belong anywhere. The reason why going back to China was so good for me was that I was forced to be real with myself. Like I was forced to be face to face with my own real heritage, my culture. Something I thought was just Chinese takeout, martial arts movies, or whatever. Like I didn't know my own culture. I didn't really know where I came from. I didn't know myself at all. And what's crazy was that when I went back to China, you would think like, okay, all right, you're back in China, you're like among Chinese people, you belong. No, you know what my nickname was throughout the 2 years I was in China? It was Lao Wai, which means foreigner, okay? Every single Chinese person in my school called me foreigner, even though I'm not technically a foreigner, but I am to them. I was even more, confused, like, what the heck, what? And it's not like it hit me one day, but throughout my stay, I started to understand my culture. I started to understand where I came from. I started talking to my childhood friends. You know what happened? I fell in love because I feel like where a person comes from, there's a link there. Although you might not be able to see it on the surface, it is incredibly strong. And when you pull on that thread, when you start to discover more about your own heritage, start to discover things that really make you who you are, you realize that's such a beautiful thing. And after the 2 years I spent in China, I didn't want to come back here. I wanted to stay in China. I loved it. I loved the history. I loved the food. I loved the people. Didn't love the Communist Party, hated them, but I finally felt that, okay, I belong here, you know? But then of course I had to go back. So again, I was put back into the US and this whole thing started happening with off and on racist comments, and then all this confusion started coming back to me. So then I thought, let me go to college in misery. All right, if you're wondering why all of a sudden I went from eating pizza to eating soup dumplings and wearing different clothes and all that stuff, sometimes things happen during recording. So in this case, I think the audio mic ran out of batteries towards the end of this video. So all that was gone. So that's unusable. And I didn't find out until I was trying to edit it today. So here we are. Meal number 2. These are not bad though for frozen soup dumplings. My favorite way to use soup dumplings is actually popping the whole thing in my mouth as soon as it's tolerable, because I really like that little burst of juice. So I talked about going to China and absolutely loving my time there, and really understanding my heritage, my background, my culture, and soaking every single drop of that in, to the point where after 2 years, my parents were like, all right, you ready to come home? And I said no. And it was crazy because life in China wasn't easy. It wasn't like it was fun. I mean, my house in China, we had no heat, we had no hot water. Like I literally had to go to bed in the winter with my entire coat on. I would go to bed like that, I would go in the covers because it was too cold to change. And I made a lot of friends there, but I also encountered situations where people are like, oh, 你是老外, you're a foreigner, you're from America, that means you have money. So if you don't give me money, I'm gonna mess you up. These are the situations I ran into all the time in China. I got mugged twice. I'll do a video about my entire experience in China. It's just wild. So it wasn't like I was in China, it was so comfy, it was so great, I didn't want to come back. No, it wasn't. It was the opposite of that. But despite all these things, I fell so deeply in love with the culture and the people, the history. I mean, maybe mostly the food, and that's what I really, really loved. It was like discovering a side of you that you never even wanted. But then all of a sudden you realize that's the best part of me. And it was crazy because towards the second half of my time in China, I did really start to feel like this is where I belong. I didn't want to come back because I felt like this is where I belong. The feeling of not fitting in somewhere was gone. I fit in here. But then when I came back, and especially when I went to college in misery, I mean, the school I went to, Truman State, that place was about as diverse as a box of milk does. That's not where you go if you want to really meet people from different backgrounds and see diversity, you know? So I spent 5 years there, and the feeling of really not belonging again returned to me. I felt like I kind of lost whatever I found when I was back in China. And I struggled with this for so many years until I think my 20s. So after college, I moved to New York, worked for a nonprofit, and it was with a lot of different people from various backgrounds. There's so many different people around me, right? Like in the company I worked at, everyone was different. You walk outside, it's New York City, everyone's different. And I don't know when it happened, it certainly didn't happen overnight, and this was several years after I moved to the city. And I was thinking, and I was remembering the times where I really didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I was lonely, I was not happy. And I realized that I haven't thought about that in a while. And thinking back, I can't pinpoint the exact moment I realized this, where exactly what helped me come to this conclusion. I think I slowly became okay, slowly started to accept, and slowly started to love myself. And I realized a big part of why I didn't feel like I fit in, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, was the fact that I didn't really fully like or accept who I was. And I was fully able to grasp the fact that who really cares about what people think around me? I mean, end of the day, there's always gonna be more people around you that care about you than those that put you down. Just like every single video you make on YouTube, you could make the best video in the world. The video could just be like the most angelic baby and a dog playing together. There's always gonna be haters, always gonna be people that's gonna try to put you down, make you feel bad. But no matter where you are in the world, no matter who you're with, as long as you're comfortable in your own skin, as long as you know who you are, as the song goes, you're titanium. And the only way you can truly love and accept who you are is you got to get to know yourself. So if you are in the situation that I was and you do feel like you don't really belong anywhere, you don't fit in, I would say take time, do some soul searching, really get to understand you. And it's a crazy concept because you are who you spend the most time with every single day. You've been with yourself your whole lives, but I think a lot of us have no idea who we really are. So how can you go through life and be able to love other people truly and love life and be able to really embrace life and have a positive attitude if you really don't know who you are? So go understand more about your background, explore your heritage, look inside and see what makes you feel uneasy and dig into that. What am I embarrassed by? Why do I feel like this? And getting to know your heritage, whether it's traveling back to your native land or just simply taking a bite out of it. Understanding your heritage is a great way to understanding yourself. Also, there's like 7 billion people on this planet. There's so many ways of connecting with people that was not available before. So you don't necessarily have to do all this alone. Go find friends, go make friends, go open yourself up. Push yourself to go have a meal alone, go travel, go on a solo trip. Not anywhere dangerous. I'll tell you guys, I didn't used to be able to eat by myself. I didn't. Like back when I was younger, I would feel so awkward if I had to go into a restaurant alone. That freaked me out too much. I wouldn't be able to do it. But here's what I was thinking. Like people are gonna judge me. They're gonna think I have no friends. They're gonna think I'm a loser. Again, who cares what people think? I was not comfortable in my own skin because I didn't really know who I was. But get out of your comfort zone. Do things that really challenges you. Also, sometimes we worry way too much about what other people think about us. And what's funny is that probably 90% of the time, nobody's thinking anything of you. Everyone's got their own problems. Everyone's got their own thoughts, own worries, own situations going on. Unless you're like streaking through a hotel or something, most of the time, no one's thinking about you. And finally, be accepting. If you think about it, so many of the world's problems come from narrow-mindedness, from people quick to judge others from different backgrounds. I think if we were more accepting, not just to ourselves, but to everyone, so many of these problems, they just go away. And it really breaks my heart with all the attacks and xenophobia going on, targeting Asians, and then there's cases of Chinese people targeting Black people in China. There's all sorts of this stuff going around the world. It's so frustratingly sad. And it really does make me think, you know, in all my years of being alive and traveling around the world, which group of people were the most accepting I've ever met in my life was actually the kids I met when I first came to the US, Sequoia Elementary, Knoxville, Tennessee. I just came from an entirely different culture. I didn't speak the language. I came in with a hole in my pants, had a knife in my pocket. I sometimes packed pig feet as my lunch. No one judged me. And I know obviously kids are innocent, whatever, that's true, but just thinking back, like no one made fun of me. No one made fun of me because I was different. Everyone went out of their way to help me. I was invited to countless birthday parties, even though like I didn't know anyone's name. And of course, it's impossible to be as naive as kids, and we shouldn't learn everything from them. I had a classmate that ate burgers. But the accepting part, the caring part, those are some ways I wish we can be more like them. So whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever your background, your ethnicity, your uniqueness, your quirks, own all of it and be proud of all of it. Because like my mom always says, life is like dim sum. You never know what you're going to get. Sorry, my accent is horrible, and that's just in my mind what Asian Forrest Gump would be like. All right, guys, thank you all so much for watching. See you later.